He already showed you, not once, not in a confusing way. He showed you, and you kept looking past the man in front of you. That is the part that hurts to admit. You had a whole future built around a man who was not living up to it. In your mind, there was a later version of him. Calmer, clearer, more ready. The kind of man who would finally choose you without making you feel like you were asking for too much. But then there was the real room you were sitting in. He would talk about someday like it was close enough to touch. But when it was time to make an actual plan, he got vague. He could talk about the life you might build together one day, but he would not show up with the kind of steadiness that made today feel safe. You noticed it. Your body changed when the conversation moved from feelings to actions. He became careful with words when you asked where this was going. And before long, you were helping him out of the question, softening your face and making it easier for him not to answer. And after that, you went home and kept the future alive for him. You pictured the better apartment, the easier mornings, the day he would finally stop being unsure. You held on to a future his actions had not earned. You let those imagined moments matter more than what he had already shown you. The trap was not that you saw nothing. You saw enough. The trap was that accepting it would have meant losing more than him. It would have meant losing the future you had attached to him. So you stayed with the possibility. And the man in front of you kept getting credit for a future he was not actually building. The excuse was simple. He is not ready yet. That sentence gave you a place to put everything that did not feel right. It made his hesitation sound temporary. It made his vague answers sound like a season. It made you feel patient instead of honest about what was happening. And it did not come from nowhere. He gave you just enough to build it. A serious look across the table. A quiet sentence about how much you meant to him. A night when he spoke about being scared of messing things up. He knew how to sound close to the truth without taking the next step toward it. So when he stepped back again, you reached for that explanation before you reached for the obvious. You told yourself he had been hurt before and needed time. A man who talked that deeply could not be empty, so there had to be more beneath the distance. One evening, someone asked you what was really going on between you two, and you heard yourself protecting him. You did not say, "He avoids the question every time it becomes real." You said, "It is complicated." You did not say, "He talks about a future, but does not make room for me in his actual life." You said, "He has a lot going on." And the moment you said it, something in you knew you had made his behavior easier to swallow. Not because it stopped hurting, but because naming it plainly would have forced you to see how long you had been accepting words that never became action. That excuse kept the connection alive. It let you stay near the man you wanted him to become while ignoring how little the man in front of you was choosing. It let you keep waiting without calling it waiting. And it let him keep receiving your belief without offering real presence. The truth is, he was not becoming that man while you were waiting. He was learning that your hope could cover what his actions did not. That is a hard thing to see, because it does not always look cruel from the outside. He still knew how to sound sincere. He still had moments that made you think, maybe this is where it changes. But then the next ordinary day came, and nothing had really moved. You carried the movement for both of you. At work, you would lose your place in a task because one part of your mind was still in that last conversation. You would reread what he said about wanting a future, then compare it to the way he still had not made any real decision. His words gave you hope. His actions gave you something else. And your body knew the difference. You became careful with joy. You stopped getting too excited about your own plans because you did not know whether he would finally include you or become vague and distant again. You would make space in your week without admitting you were making space. You would leave an evening open, then tell yourself you just wanted a quiet night. You started living around a possibility, not a promise, not a date, not a choice, a possibility. That kind of waiting does not stay in one corner of your life. It follows you into meals, into sleep, into conversations with people who ask simple questions you no longer know how to answer. You start editing the truth before it leaves your mouth, because the plain version sounds too sad. He is still unsure. He still has not chosen. I am still here. The cost was not only that he failed to become what you needed. The cost was that you kept postponing your own life to make room for a man who kept postponing you. And every time you called that faith, you moved further away from what his actions had already made clear. You kept believing because the loss had already started. It was not only about whether he cared. That would have been easier if he had been cold all the time. But he was not. There were moments when he sounded serious and seemed to truly see you. Sometimes he spoke about a life ahead, and for a little while, the picture in your mind felt possible again. That is what made it hard. You were attached to what his best moments seemed to point toward. When he talked softly about the future, you did not hear only words. You heard the life you had rehearsed quietly. You could see the kitchen, the ordinary Sundays, the easier version of him walking through the door without making you wonder where you stood. You could see yourself no longer explaining the connection, because it would finally look real. So when the man in front of you pulled back, you did not just feel disappointed. You felt threatened by the truth. Because admitting who he was being meant taking down every scene you had built around him. It meant letting go of birthdays that had not happened, trips that had not been planned, and the calm you thought would arrive once he finally became ready. There is nothing strange about how badly that hurt. A future can become heavy even when it only lives in your mind. You can grieve something that never fully existed because you gave it room in your heart and a place in your decisions. But care does not make behavior livable. Feeling something for him did not turn his uncertainty into commitment. Understanding his fear did not make his absence easier to carry. Wanting the future did not mean he was building it with you. You stayed because leaving felt like losing two men at once. The real one who kept hesitating, and the imagined one you had been waiting to meet. Only one of them was actually there. The step forward does not have to be dramatic. It can be small enough to happen on an ordinary afternoon when his words start pulling you back into the future you built for him. He says something familiar. Maybe he says he misses you or wants things to be better. He may start talking again about what could happen one day. For a moment, your mind begins to fill in the missing parts for him. This is the moment when the picture can remain unfinished. You can stay with what is actually in the room and ask one plain question. What is he doing now that makes this real? The question is not what he feels, what he might become, or what he said when he was afraid of losing you. The question is what he is doing now. If the answer is still vague, it can remain vague. One soft conversation does not have to become a whole life again. That is the interruption. You stop giving today's man credit for tomorrow's fantasy. You may still care. The kitchen, the mornings, the calm may still come back when you are tired or lonely, or when he sounds almost ready again. But when they come, place them where they belong. In your mind, not as proof of who he is. Then look at the next real thing. Did he make a clear plan? Did he follow through without being pushed? Did his life make real room for you? If not, you do not have to argue with the dream. You can simply stop using the dream as evidence. And slowly, the future you invented stops making decisions for you. There is grief in that. There is also room. Room to eat dinner without waiting for a man to become honest later. Room to say what is true without making it softer. Room to stop standing beside a door that only opens in your imagination. He already showed you who he is. Now your life can stop answering to who you hoped he would be.